Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I have some really stunning news for you guys today related to the Epstein case because there was an Epstein victim and assistant who has named three new names. She has named three new men who were previously not unknown, but they were not known to be connected to Epstein or abusers. So this all went down last week. She gave a deposition before a committee in Congress, and the Miami Herald is the one who revealed their names because Congress didn't release the names. They did a closed door meeting with her, closed door interview, and she gave them the names, of course, but they refused to reveal who they were. So I have those names for you. I also have news about a Trump cabinet member who may have bribed Republican lawmakers in advance of his testimony. And then you guys are going to want to stay tuned to the end to hear about a U.S. reporter who has now fled the country, has fled the United States because she claims that the government is using one of these high frequency weapons, kind of like, the Havana syndrome thing that was going on a couple years back. She is claiming that the United States government is using one of these weapons on her because of her coverage of Epstein. I am not kidding. So, first of all, here's the news about the three new Epstein associates, I'll call them, who've been accused. So, Sarah Kellen was an assistant to Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years. So, here she is. This is probably the most infamous photo of her with Epstein. You can see her here giving him a massage. This was taken on the island. So, she was named as not only his assistant, but she was named as a recruiter. She would book other girls for other underage girls for massages with Epstein. She also was a victim herself. Now, it's very easy to attack her. People, said, "Oh, well, she's guilty. She's a co-conspirator." Here's the thing. I think a lot of these girls, remember, they were teenagers when they met him. They were teenagers when he groomed them. I think a lot of these girls suffered from what's known as Stockholm syndrome. Okay, they were children, their brains were not fully formed yet, and they were groomed by not just one, but two grown ass people, two adults who manipulated them. These were sociopaths that groomed and manipulated them. And Kellen testified before Congress that Epstein repeatedly and sometimes violently assaulted her, and that he basically gaslit her into believing that all of this was okay. So, and she said, I had nowhere to go. Like, so I leave him, and then what? Like, I didn't have family I could turn to. I didn't have any money. What was I going to do? So, I mean, this is like typical abuser behavior, right? They isolate you, they gaslight you, they take away any and all means you might have to get away from them. And then you're easier to victimize further. So, anyway, like I said, Kellen was interviewed. She was interviewed by the House committee that's investigating and reviewing all of this. And she named three men who she says either abused or harassed her when she was underage. And you guys, you know what I mean when I say abused or harassed. You know what kind of abuse and harassment that is. So, this is an article that CNN published. They also did not reveal the names publicly. Like I said, the Miami Herald is the one that did. And one of these men is the former mayor of Miami. He was also a Democratic candidate for Florida governor. His name is Philip Levine. Okay, so here he is here. This is the article that they published. So Julie K. Brown, again, doing phenomenal reporting. So in addition to Levine, who you see here on the screen, Kellen also accused the celebrity hairstylist who you may have heard of. He has a whole line of hair products, Frederic Fekkai, And then also a very famous fashion photographer named Patrick Demarchales, I believe is how you pronounce his name. So he is so famous, this Demarchales, his name was repeatedly mentioned in the movie, what was it called? The Devil Wears Prada. So, I mean, couple times they mentioned him. And so here's what it said. Here's what the article in the Herald said. They said they tried to reach out to and contact Levine numerous times. They tried to reach out to one of the others. Anyway, they said Sarah Kellen, a key member of Epstein's inner circle, told the House Oversight Committee she was assaulted by Levine, and she named two other men: celebrity hairstylist Frederic Fekkai and famed fashion photographer Patrick Demarchales. So, or Demarchalier, I'm not sure. Anyway, the Herald said tried to reach Levine numerous times. They were unsuccessful. They also reached out to the law firm that represented Fekkai. However, they haven't heard back from him. And then this DeMarchale guy, he died in 2022. Now, according to the Miami Herald, there were more than 1 dozen of Levine's phone numbers. The Miami candidate, the Democratic politician down in Miami, 1 dozen of his phone numbers were found in Epstein's little black book when that was revealed and exposed. He said, "Oh, I barely knew the guy, didn't know him." He said, when he was asked about Epstein, he said, quote, "We probably met probably 15 to 20 years ago at a social event in New York and probably exchanged business cards. I really don't recall where and when. Never had any interactions with him and didn't meet beyond that." So his story is ran into him at some social gathering, didn't know him, but it was like 20 years ago, had no relationship with the guy. Total and complete bullshit, because now we know, based on all of the emails that have been released by the DOJ, they were very friendly. He was even sending sexually suggestive emails to Ghislaine Maxwell. He was emailing regularly with Epstein. So here's what it said. It said, the files also revealed flirty and sexually suggestive emails between Levine and Maxwell from the early 2000s. And then it goes on to talk about how he joked about his penis with Maxwell. He said he was hung like a horse. It said, Levine told Maxwell to tell a woman whom Levine was planning to meet that the rumor is that I am hung like a horse, not a rumor. In another undated email, Maxwell wrote to Levine, "I told her that you were hung like a horse, and she said that she would like to see it at breakfast. I told her to take pictorial evidence and pictorial evidence for me." Okay, does that sound like, oh, met him one time, in passing at an event, and never saw them again? Really? And then Levine also kept in contact with Epstein after his 2008 conviction. He sent Epstein an email in 2010, and in that email, he called him a great guy. That's a direct quote. And he signed it, "Your friend Philip." Yeah, but sure guy. You met him briefly at an event. So here's what Kellen accuses all of these men of doing. So she alleges that Levine and Fekkai each assaulted her on separate occasions, and that DeMarchale, he exposed himself to her. And this DeMarchale guy was accused, before his death, he was accused of actual assault by other women. So, and here's the thing, a lot of people might blow it off and go, "Oh, he exposed himself to her. Ooh, big deal." I don't think men understand the gravity of something like that, of exposing themselves to a woman. It's not like a woman flashing a man, okay? Men, they may like that. They may get off on it when a woman does it. We don't enjoy it. The reason being is because we know what it might lead to. We know what might come next. Okay. We may laugh it off just to diffuse the situation so that we don't escalate things. Inside, we're freaking out. We're praying that it doesn't escalate to an attack. So, not the same thing in reverse. So, anyway, Epstein was also tied to Fakai, apparently. So, according to the Herald, they said that Epstein was paying Fakai to provide haircuts, to provide other, grooming services to models. And this was up until just months before he was arrested, related to that 2008 arrest and conviction and, slap on the wrist. So we'll see. We'll see what happens if the House maybe hauls these two men in for testimony. I have no doubt whatsoever that the Justice Department is going to ignore all of these new allegations. I mean, that's what they've done with everything. It's what they've done with all the others, right? And speaking of the corrupt Trump regime, it was just revealed that Howard Lutnick made a very large donation to the House Republican super PAC just 4 weeks after they scheduled him for his interview to discuss his relationship with Epstein. So take a look at this. He gave $5 million to the Republican super PAC right after they scheduled him for his interview. I'm sure this is just a coincidence. Totally on the up and up, you guys. In any case, I also wanted to share this next bit of news, which is just beyond concerning, very, very troubling. So there's a journalist named Elisa Valdez Rodriguez. She's been covering a lot of the Epstein story. She has, in particular, been covering New Mexico. So that's where Epstein has that massive ranch. That's where supposedly, according to somebody who called in a tip, there are bodies buried there. There's two young girls that their bodies are buried on the ranch. There's stuff connecting this ranch to nuclear weapons and, the government and the Pentagon and so forth. Well, she announced that she had to flee the United States for fear of her life. Here's one of the articles that came out about this. So she broke this news on her Substack account, and evidently she has been receiving all kinds of threats. She was actually attacked, she says, with a weapon. So this is one of these weapons. It sounds like the ones that they used with the Havana syndrome cases. You guys might recall there were I think it was U.S. diplomats who were in Cuba at the time, and other places as well. I think this happened where they all of a sudden were having these weird symptoms where they were having like immense pressure in their head. They felt like their heads were going to explode, like just throughout their body. They felt weird. Felt like they were going to vomit. And this would happen when they were in their hotel rooms by themselves. And it even affected some of their pets. Some of them were left with like literal brain damage. Some of them were left with physical symptoms, and there was no explanation for it. But this was happening to multiple different diplomats and other officials from the United States government. So we've never gotten to the bottom of who caused this. But then more recently, Trump made very like jaw-dropping comments about how we used weapons, that when our people went in, when our military went into Venezuela to kidnap Maduro and his wife, that there were reports that we use some of these types of sound weapons, these high frequency weapons, and that it disabled a lot of their military, that, military members for Venezuela were like reduced to, total puddles on the floor, basically, not physically, not literally, but like their noses were bleeding. They couldn't hear, like they had all this pressure in their head. So it sounds like we have these weapons as well. So here's what Valdez Rodriguez wrote on her Substack page. I'll bring it up for you. She said, "Okay, folks, it appears my home has been located by, well, whomever is unhappy about my reporting about Zorro Ranch and the local cover up here and the military intelligence routes of the child sex trafficking operation Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were running here in New Mexico. This morning, I was hit in my home office by two episodes of what I later learned were likely direct energy weapon attacks." And then she says, "Look up Havana syndrome. My symptoms are consistent with such attacks and entirely new. We wasted no time in leaving the house for good. We will be staying in safe houses while we finish plans to permanently relocate abroad. The hardest part will be transporting our pets. It is very expensive. I am going to set up a GoFundMe to help cover that expense and a security detail until we are out of the USA. Yes, it has come to this. We kind of figured it might." This is freaking terrifying. Okay. And then here's why I say she blames the government. So she didn't mention it in that post, but people were commenting on this post, and then in the comment they were saying like, you need to reach out to the government, you need to contact like the CIA or the FBI. And she, in the comment section, accused the federal government of being the ones using the weapons against her. She said it's those agencies that are doing it. I'm just telling you what she said, guys. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but we have all seen how this has gone down. We have all seen that anybody who tries to bring this up, anybody who even thinks of maybe, turning against the government ends up dead. How many people now have suicided themselves that are tied to Epstein, right? And you had a woman who accused Trump, according to the FBI's files, and then she ends up with her head blown off, and they deemed it a suicide. Virginia Giuffre ends up suiciding herself, supposedly. I mean, the woman in Israel, right? One of the officials in Israel, their daughter accused her parents of being involved in some sort of pedo ring, and then all of a sudden she ends up suicided. I mean, the government supposedly stepped in when Alex Acosta was handling Epstein's conviction and his prosecution down in Florida. And supposedly, according to now two different people, one who was a lead investigator, they were told, you need to back off. The people higher up are telling us we need to back off. We know he was involved with the Israeli government. So, I mean, yeah, it could be our government doing this. It could be the Israeli government doing this, if in fact what she is saying is true. So, again, this is just terrifying. This is unbelievable that this is happening, but we need to take it seriously. This woman obviously takes it seriously enough that she has left her home and has fled the United States. So, she's not making it up. No one would do that if they were making it up. So, I'll keep an eye on this. I will let you know if I hear any more. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, please share this video so people understand how serious this is. Subscribe if you have not. Please donate if you possibly can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.